Should I heal that aura, or should I revive him when he dies? Who should I put the confusion hex on? And who should I shield first? These are all questions we're going to answer in today's episode. I'm Professor Vocus, and this is Harry Potter Wizards Unite. Okay, so disclaimer right at the beginning, we're not going to get into a deep dive of Fortress strategy and what auras, Zoologists, and professors should be doing, but I just see a lot of posts on Reddit and some discussion in the Discord when they enter a chamber with somebody and it's obvious they're not sure how to play their role. And I'm not talking about the people that don't do anything, that maybe they got disconnected. People that are actually engaging foes and fighting, but they're just maybe not doing things what we'll say is the correct way, although that is debatable. I'm here to just go over some basic strategies for if you're an aura, a magiciosa, or a professor, just basic rules you can follow to at least be productive with your team. And really all the way up to Dark 5, if you are doing at least these basic things, people will be fine with how you're doing things. There are definitely going to be situational times when what you did isn't the optimal move, but it'll still be better than doing nothing or doing really the wrong thing. So for you experienced players, a lot of this is not going to be super useful information. It'll be things you already knew, you're already doing in Fortresses. This is more for somebody that is maybe really new to the game, or they've been playing for a while and haven't done Fortresses too much. And with this weekend coming up, a lot of people are going to be not only going into Fortresses, but because of those tasks, they're going to be trying to hit those higher chambers. So I'm hoping that it'll at least help some of those people maybe know what their role is when they enter the fortress. In addition to helping you learn a little more about your role, it also is really helpful to know other roles so you'll know what they're doing. Either what you need to wait for them to do for you to take action, or that maybe why they're waiting to take action because they're waiting for you to do something. So again, we're going to go over some of the basics. So let's start with the aura. You can see on my screen I'm in my aura fundamentals, which I'm a professor, so I've invested very few scrolls into this, but you can see where I am. So right away, the first thing you get is the weakening hex. The weakening hex is going to lower the power of whatever foe you put it on. So you put it on the foe, then it doesn't matter who's fighting, and it doesn't have to be you. You put it on there, and every time they do damage to whoever they're fighting, it's just going to be less. So when you cast this, you're going to want to cast this on the things that do the most damage. For example, Death Eaters do the least damage out of any foe when they attack, so they would be a bad choice to put it on. Again, situationally, there might be times you put it on but what I'm talking about is in general, if you're not sure what to put it on, really go for more like acromantulas, pixies, dark wizards, and werewolves. But if I had to give you any advice, if there's an acromantula out there, probably put it on that. Again, even if it's not the best choice, other people playing with you aren't going to be angry if you throw it on an acromantula, because acromantulas, when you combine their stamina plus their power, they're some of the worst things to fight against. Next, we have the Bat Bogey Hex. There are maybe rare instances when it is useful, but if you're not sure what to do, I just would avoid the Bat Bogey Hex altogether. Just don't use it. As you may research deeper and deeper, you'll start to find some uses for the Bat Bogey Hex. Generally, it's to save energy, that type of thing. But you can probably avoid it and just work on the weakening, and then the next one we're going to talk about, which is the Confusion Hex. So here at the Confusion Hex, you impair a foe by lowering their dodge, defense, and defense breach. I'll let you know right off the bat, common and formidable foes, this has no effect on, because they do not have dodge, defense, or defense breach. So it doesn't lower anything. They don't even have the stats that this affects. So you need imposing, dangerous, or fierce. And even for imposing, pixies don't have it at all. Werewolves do have it, but professors can usually skill themselves to be enough, have enough defense breach to already where they don't need the Confusion Hex in addition. Dark Wizards and Earthlings do have it, but I would just save the Confusion Hex for dangerous and fierce foes, because they're going to have a higher one, so it's going to reduce it and it's going to make a bigger difference. And again, situationally, there's all sorts of things you could cast a Confusion Hex on based on what's on the field and stuff, but again, I'm trying to give you an easier baseline of what to cast it on. And Earthlings, Werewolves, and Dark Wizards, in general, if you're going to put it on one of those three, again, if you're with a group and that's what you put it on, it's still productive and people aren't going to be upset with you because you're using it in that way. And I saved the focus charm for last. This is probably one of the most important skills that they have. So at the beginning of a fortress battle, really before anybody gets engaged, if you're an Auror, you want to pass focus to a professor. Now, if a professor, they've already maxed out their focus, essentially, they should be starting with 4 focus. And you really want to throw them 3 more focus. So if there's multiple Aurors, you don't both have to throw a bunch at them, just 1, 2, and 1, 1, or whatever. But if you're by yourself, you're trying to pass 3 off to the professor. You want to get them to 7. And they're able to cast Proficiency, which when I go over the professor, you'll see what that does if you're not sure what that does. But it's something that affects the whole group and helps you in every way in the fortress for the whole battle. So it's a fantastic charm. So when you first get in, you would pass charm. If there's more than one professor, it can get a little confusing because if it's just you, it's easy because you can just pass it to one of the professors. And then hopefully that professor does their job correctly. But if there's multiple Aurors, you might wait a second, see if the other Auror passes to a professor, and then pass to the same one, because it's a lot easier for both of you to pass to one. And we'll get into what the professor is going to do with that focus even more when I talk about them. But just know when you get in, instead of throwing in confusion on something and engaging, you should go ahead and do the focus first, maybe even wait for them to go ahead and do Proficiency, or if they don't, that lets you know how this battle is going to go as well. But pass that focus and then go ahead and engage something. And I know there's a lot more to being an Auror than just those there. This, like I said, is really geared toward if you haven't played Auror and you're new to the game, then if you can just follow these more simple guidelines of Confusion Hex on certain things, Weakening Hex, don't use Bat Bogey, pass that focus. Even those bare minimums, even in the highest level chambers, your group's probably going to be successful. Moving on to Zoologists, and let me switch over to that. Again, 71 out of 142. I literally, for this one, the only thing I've invested are scrolls. No spell books whatsoever. And you can see, you can actually get pretty far down the tree. I didn't upgrade a lot of things because as soon as I hit red books, I stopped. Your main goal as a Zoologist is going to be to revive your teammates. We'll talk about that in a second. To engage your foes, which would be Urklings and Acromantulas. And then third would be really to cast Bravery Charm. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So the first things first, we have the Stamina Charm. It says restore the stamina of a teammate. It's a healing spell. Now, when you go to do that, it actually costs you 2 focus to do that. 2 focus to put some health back. But if we go down right here, the Revive Charm. You revive a knocked out teammate and come back with a portion of their stamina. Based on your tree, you can actually get them maybe 80% of their stamina or more. So this costs 1 focus. So if you've ever seen people talk about don't be a healing Zoologist, just revive, it's because it's more focus efficient. And in a battle, if you're a Zoologist, you should be just watching to see. And if anybody dies, revive them. But probably don't worry about healing them. Again, I do want a disclaimer. Is it 100% never heal and always let? Not necessarily. If you're super low on time and somebody's fighting that last foe and they're at a sliver of health, yeah, you would probably heal them just so they can finish that foe off right then instead of them dying, having to revive. Although even then, if you did it, someone else could come engage them and probably finish off the foe. So really, again, to keep it simple, just revive people. Don't worry about healing the stamina. Just keep that focus for that. Second thing is the Bravery Charm. The Bravery Charm is going to help against elite foes. So for a lot of fortress battles, the way I see it happen, and an easier way for it to happen, is for them to cast the Bravery Charm eventually, after the Aurors have passed off focus to the professors, and gotten both Proficiency Charm and Shields, which I'll talk about Shields when I get to Professor. Then Aurors probably should be passing focus over to the Zoologist so that they can get the Bravery Charm cast. Because the Bravery Charm costs 7 focus. And elite foes then are easier to beat. So I've also seen If elite foes pop up, don't attack them at the beginning of the fortress battle. Go ahead and start picking off the other things until the Magic Zoologist is able to cast the Bravery Charm. Then go in against the elite foes, and maybe they get confusioned or they get weakened, that kind of thing. So the elite foes, a lot of times people will leave them and wait because they know the Professor is getting some of the focus at the beginning, and the Magic Zoologist gets it a little bit after that, and it's able to cast Bravery Charm. Another reason Magic Zoologists, it's better for them to hold off on casting Bravery is so that they can maintain focus for longer at the beginning of the battle because of this right here, Become the Beast. Power when you have 5 or greater focus. So a lot of times Magic Zoologists want to get to 5 focus and then hold on to that and just be attacking Acromantulas, Urklings, and whatever foes they can go against. But they get plus 40 power when they do that, which is a nice bonus for sure. So if they can use that for as long as possible against normal things, then cast the Bravery Charm for the elite guys, and then maybe get some focus passed back to them from the auras to get back up to at least 5 so that they're back up to that power. That's why a lot of times Magic Zoologists are holding on to that focus. So if you're with a Magic Zoologist, they're probably trying to hold on to that bonus if you don't see them putting anything out yet. Bravery just needs to be cast at some point, and at that point, people can start engaging the elite foes. So to sum up, if you're a Magic Zoologist at the beginning of the battle, feel free, of course, to engage your foes. Go ahead and start to build up focus. Try to get to that 5. Hold on to that power. Go through the battle. And when you get past the halfway point of the battle, when people do want to start engaging elites, go ahead and throw up that Bravery Charm. Again, sometimes if you have a lot of elites, yeah, the Bravery Charm probably should come out earlier. If you have very few elites, then maybe Bravery Charm comes at the very end, just right at the end when people are going to engage those 2 or 3 elites and hit them, as opposed to maybe having 6 elites, that kind of thing. Oh, and one more thing about Magic Zoologists, probably more than the other 2, although both of them would do this, is as a Magic Zoologist, you should probably engage something and maybe do a couple interchanges with it, hit it, it's going to hit you or come back at you, and then actually back out of it and just look at the field, just see if any of your teammates have died so you can revive them, and then go back in. And Magic Zoologist, more than the other 2, has to do that, kind of back out, assess things, make sure there's no one that needs to be revived, and then go back in and fight your guy. And that's normal and expected. By the way, if you're the only Magic Zoologist, no one's there to revive you, so if you die, you've got to wait through your timer. So it's also your job there to actually back out and not die. Not that anybody wants to die, but for you specifically. Now, if there's 2 of you, you can kind of gauge that based on where the other Magic Zoologist's health is at, and then you could decide, okay, I can die because they're going to revive me. And lastly, let's head over to Professor. Switch over. This is what I am. Not that I call myself an expert at it, but I'm just going to, again, just the baseline how things really should work. So as a Professor, almost all of your strategy happens right at the beginning. Again, not that there's not a ton of stuff after that you can make better decisions, but really right at the beginning of a battle, what I do is I wait and I see if auras pass focus to me. Because if they pass focus to me and get me to 7, then I'm going to cast Proficiency Charm. The Proficiency Charm gives everybody a boost to things they're proficient against. So it's going to make ours more effective against Dark Wizards and Death Eaters. It's going to make Magic Zoologists more effective against Acromantulas and Urklings, and it's going to make myself, the Professor, better against Pixies and Werewolves. So it just helps enhance your entire team by raising their proficiency power. And it lasts the whole battle. It doesn't matter what level foe they are. It's going to help everybody. And that's why it's so important to get this charm down first. Which is why auras should be passing it, because it really does help everybody do damage for the whole battle, and it lasts the whole battle. So that's 7 focus. After casting Proficiency Charm, I'll usually go ahead and engage something that I'm good against, and if I don't have anything I'm good against, I'll go against usually something, either an Urkling or an Acromantula, of a lower level that I know I'm not going to just get completely beat up on. So again, just engage a foe. Usually after that foe, when I come back out, I usually have at least 3 focus at that point. At which point I will use Shield. And Shield, the Protection Charm, enhance a teammate by increasing their defense. This is only on one of your teammates. For me, I prioritize the auras first. Especially if I'm the only professor, I'm definitely going to be doing that. If there's another professor, I'm going to kind of see if they've thrown shields out already. I'm going to put it on the auras first, because they're really usually going through people quicker, and they just are kind of the glass cannons. They just have less stamina and less defense. They can build it up with their skill tree, but it's definitely helpful to put this shield on them first. Then I'll usually put it on the Magizoologist, and then I'll put it on myself. So there's definitely battles I never end up putting it on myself. I end up putting on other people first, which is what you should be doing. Now again, there's going to be times when you might do shields first. If there's two professors and I see the auras pass all the focus to the other professor, I know that professor should be casting the Proficiency Charm. So they'll cast that, and then since I already started with 4 focus, I'll immediately shield one of the auras that I'm with, or the aura if I'm with one aura, and then go ahead and engage after that. So again, if you're casting Proficiency Charm and throwing shields on people, even if other decisions you make aren't fantastic, that at least is going to kind of do that base amount, that even if you're in the dark chambers, your team is going to be really still moving along because you're doing these things. And then last but not least is the Deterioration Hex for professors. It's not game breaking or anything, and this is something that after I've shielded everybody and we're continuing later in the battle, I will actually a lot of times throw this on elite foes that people are fighting, or if I see somebody fighting something maybe they're not good against, the Deterioration Hex is just going to do damage every time the foe attacks whoever they're attacking. My Hex in particular does 40 damage. So every time a werewolf attacks me, it takes 40 damage for attacking me. But usually I'll look for like an aura going against some kind of elite dark wizard, and I'll put that Deterioration Hex on that just to make things go a little bit faster. This is really kind of a basic overview of what you should be doing in fortresses, and having that knowledge of what other professions are trying to accomplish helps you to know why they're doing what they're doing so you can do your actions. Like as a professor, me going in, I sit still and don't do anything at the beginning of a battle because I'm waiting to see if those auras pass focus. So auras, if you go in and you see a professor just sitting there not engaging, that's why they're sitting there, you would imagine, unless they don't do anything and then they're being one of those people, which we don't want to talk about that. But again, use these basic strategies. My recommendation, if you want to be a better teammate in fortresses, there are plenty of guides online that are just really super in-depth that I didn't want to try to go too in-depth here, but I'm going to link one of them down below. It's on the community.harrypotterwizardsunite.com site, and I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the description. Click on that and go through it. It actually has a lot of good information beyond what I just said about really specifically which foes to hit and that type of thing. And there's really no substitute for experience. You've got to go in and do it, because all these strategies I just explained are kind of the baseline strategy, but depending, if you have 3 auras, a Magizoologist, and a professor, how you do things is going to be different if you have 1 aura, 2 professors, and 2 Magizoologists. It will change the landscape. But for now, just following the simple advice that I just gave really should help you be a better teammate, especially with this upcoming weekend coming. All that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Nox.